Your heart is the support system for every organ in your body. The brain can't function without the heart pumping. The liver can't quiver when the heart has no rhythm. The quality of your life depends on the quality of your heart. Matters of the Heart podcast is a safe space for you to face the true matters of your heart. The issues that causes stress, even when you're seemingly at rest. Issues like hurt, pain, betrayal, and shame are things that are buried alive in the back of the brain. I call them undiagnosed heart traumas. Others refer to them as heartbreak, when in fact it's heartache because the heart can't break. I know, sounds pretty interesting to hear, but you'll learn more as you enter in and allow the healing to begin. I'm Datasha Mayo, the execution strategist. Welcome to Matters of the Heart.
Hello. Hello.
Back.
We are super duper excited to be before you today to bring to you Work in the Wait, developing that trust muscle. Before I get started, I don't ever want to get familiar and thinking that you know who I am. And so I always like to introduce myself. So those that know me, be patient. And those that don't, buckle your seatbelt. I am Datasha Mayo, all things execution. I have coined myself the execution strategist because I obey on demand. And so all things execution, mind, body, soul, and spirit. I am indeed multi-dimensional. I am here to disrupt your dead ends. Even if you're good, better is always available. Even if you're great, add the ER, be greater. And so I am here today with Leanne Sams, a longtime client of 3+ years, one that I am so pleased with just her overall development, mind, body, soul, and spirit. In fact, I call her the comeback queen, right? Not kids. You probably heard the comeback queen. And LL Cool J, he had a song about it that he says, don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years. And, you know, when I sit and listen to lyrics as such, I had to correct that and said, it is a comeback because she's never been where she is now, ever. And so it is indeed a comeback. Take a moment to share this broadcast. I also like to tell you that those don't know and those that do, to give you a refresher, is that I like interaction. It's a conversation. I want to hear from you. I'm not just here to talk to you, to talk at you, but to talk to you. So I want to hear from you. It's very interactive. We are here to help you break through, right? We don't want you just to hoard this great information that you're going to hear today, but we want you to break through. We want you to get clarity. We want you to ask questions. So please let us know who's here. I see that you're here. Let us know who's here, where you're from, and what your intentions are today with joining us. Listen, anything that you enter into, you should always have intention. And so I want to know, what are your intentions? What are your expectations for today? And so while we wait, I am going to introduce Leanne to some, and then just reintroduce her to others, if you will, right? Because you all may know a portion of Leanne's story, but you really don't know the story. I'm going to slow down when I say that. You know a portion of Leanne's story, but you really don't know the story. Oftentimes we look at the exterior of someone and then we come up with our own belief system. We come up with our own scenario, but there is more to meet the eye with Leanne Sams. So buckle your seat belt, grab a pen and paper. Don't just enter in to this broadcast as another broadcast, because we are going in to the matters of your heart. We're going to share ours, but you'll be able to relate to one or at least 10 matters of our heart and make immediate adjustments in yours. So say hello when you enter in. I know your parents gave you some real instructions with entering in, some real what's the word is leaving you with manners. Thank you.
Right.
I know your parents have given you manners that when you enter in someone's home, that you say hello. And so say hello. Let us know where you're tuning in from and what your expectations are. You may not know yet. It may just popped up. And so that's okay too in the moment. But just say hello. Let us know where you're coming from. And so Kristen says, so excited for this segment. Thank you, Kristen, and welcome. Trishelle says, Trishelle here. I love that, Trishelle. Right? When I enter in, I say the champ is here. So I love when you say Trishelle is here. I love that. So thanks so much for joining. And you said that your intentions are to fill any gaps on your end. I love that. I love that. And so Leanne Sims, who is she? Right? Oftentimes people have a biography that, they share, and those things are great. But I love to share from my heart who Leanne is to me, how I've come to know this amazing woman, and how I've been in partnership to get her to where she is, to help her assist, because she's already great. When she entered in, when we entered this partnership, she was already great. My job, my assignment is to help those that are already great become greater. And so who is Leanne Sims to me? Leanne Sims is willing and want to. That's who she is to me. You may say willing and want to. That's interesting. Yes, Leanne Sims has a desire, a drive of willingness and a want to be better. You see, you can want to be something, but if you don't have a willingness to do what you want, you will never receive the desires, the fruit thereof, because you have to have a willingness and a want to do it. And so that's who Leanne Sims is to me, is that she is willing and want to. And then I'll add one even in that, consistently. You see, when I met Leanne November 2017, she had this burning desire in her heart for better. She didn't quite know what the better was, but she knew it was available. And so God is so loving. He's so intentional. He's so strategic that he'll raise somebody up somewhere, somehow, somewhere to use their power, their ability, and their influence on your behalf. You see, he'll bring somebody all the way from Fort Washington, Maryland to Baltimore, Maryland, just for you. In November 2017, Leanne hired me as one of her speakers at her Fit and Fab conference, not realizing that she was meeting her help for the next years to come. Let me give you a little bit more background in that. When I enter a space, I enter to disrupt. I know that maybe half of the people that meet me initially don't feel my rhythm unless they know, right? Because we all have a type. We all have a desire. We all have somebody that we feel like has our rhythm. But when you want to go to the next dimension, your rhythm has to be disrupted. And so I always give Michael Sims, her amazing husband, his kudos, because without him even knowing, he catapulted his wife to her next dimension by making a decision. What was that decision? At that time, I was doing a 30-day detox Black Friday program that I do yearly. And he said, we're going to do it. It's from Thanksgiving until Christmas Eve. right? So you still get the holiday and all that good stuff, but from Thanksgiving to Christmas Eve, you don't get the leftovers. And he said, we're doing this program. And she really did not want to do it, had absolutely no desire to do it. But being who Leanne is, I just told y'all earlier, she's willing and want to. She decided to commit to just 30 days with her husband because he said so. As a result of her committing to those first 30 days, her life in 30 days and the trajectory of it changed drastically. Now, like you, I would say, okay, really? 30 days? It just changed drastically? It did. Here's how. Because everything is driven by your mindset, the way you think, the way you see things. And so her mindset was shifted as a result of her husband's decision and her going into and through this 30-day program. And so I can go on and on and on about Leanne, but I have her here as a guest for her to share her story in her own words to help you go from one level of faith to another level of faith. We're talking about work in the wait, developing the trust muscle. Remember, I said she knew there was a fire burning on the inside of her. That was there. But how to get there wasn't quite clear, but she continued to work in the wait. So Leanne, welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so ecstatic to have you. I look forward. I have been anticipating with great expectations today. And I absolutely know without any shadow of a doubt that the people will be blessed to greater as a result of what you have to share today. So welcome.
Amen. Thank you so much, Tasha. It is indeed an honor and a privilege to be here on the Matters of the Heart podcast with you. I know that this is a special platform for God that He gave you specifically, and kind of partnering with you in my transformation, I get the opportunity to kind of get a sneak peek into some of the journey, the moments of your journey that God has you on, whether it be personal, business, etc. And I remember when you first had this on your heart, and so I know how precious it is. So thank you for listening to Holy Spirit when He said, get Leanne on the podcast. Yeah. And everyone, what's so funny is, Holy Spirit just said, Leanne, for this session. And we hadn't talked about it before. We had never talked about, hey, maybe I'll come on the show one day. But go into how Tasha described me, which is such a great description of willing and want to. There was no question of should I, shouldn't I, what's it going to be like? What questions you're going to, all those things is yes. Then we'll figure out the rest, as we go. And that came from developing that trust muscle. That had to be developed because that's not originally kind of who I am. And so a little bit more about who I am. One thing that I've learned in coaching with Tasha is who you are is not what you do, is not what you perform. And that's something personally that I had to develop and work on, and what I'd encourage everyone else to do the same. Because when you begin to trust in only what you can output, what you can do, then, that all of that stuff can fizzle, can go away. And so who I am is joy. So every place that I show up in, joy shows up. You can go back to when I was in kindergarten, or probably when I came out the womb, through college, through high school, through now. Joy is who I am, no matter what the external looks like, no matter what the peaks and valleys are of my life. It's the joy that's been consistent for me, that's carried me through all of life, and that strengthened me. And so that willingness and that want to is strengthened by joy, knowing that regardless of what happens, what doesn't happen, I know God got me. I'm going to keep that positive perspective on His promise to get through and to endure anything that's in front. So that's a little bit more about who I am. And thank you for having me on this podcast. I'm excited to talk about working the wait.
Yeah, I love that. And one of the things you said right out the gate, and I love it, is that
Who you are is not what you do. So
Mhm.
often people develop themselves professionally and then leave their personal self to fend for itself. And I'm very intentional about the words that I use because it's literally a fending for itself. They climb the corporate ladder. Everybody has a goal to climb the corporate ladder or whatever industry you're in. Everybody wants to grow. It's a natural thing, but it's oftentimes at the sacrifice of your personal self. And I love how you came out the gate and said, what you do is not who you are. And so if you can share with us a time of what you did was who you were, because you're no longer that person, and
Mhm.
how you transformed, not a transition, but a transformation out of that.
Yeah, the most prevalent thing for me is attached to my weight. Who I was so tied to the number on the scale, the size of my pants, being plus size or not. That's who I was. And so 10 years ago, and Tasha shared a little bit about my story, but more than 10 years ago, I had ventured on this journey of weight loss. I wanted to lose weight. I'd always had a desire to be thin, skinny, whatever it might be. I grew up as the chunky kid, all those things. And I was happy, but I felt like there was more. And I thought that the entryway to get there was to be smaller, to be slimmer. And so everything that I associated with weight loss equaled success. And so when I finally lost the weight, and that came through a series of fad diets, of reducing my calories drastically, of working out pretty intensely, a lot of things that you traditionally would associate with how to lose weight. It was completely focused on the external piece. When I finally lost the weight, and I lost a significant amount of weight, 144 pounds, which was tremendous, and got all these accolades and such for, praised on Essence magazine, the Today Show, Shape magazine. Those are all the things that I wanted. But when I got there, I realized that this is not fulfilling, right? And so what I thought was success with being skinny was not that at all. It wasn't the feeling that I thought I would get when I got to that goal, which is why I'm so big on, hey, what you produce, your output is not attached to who you are. That can't be your identity. And so when I got there, I had an identity crisis, if you will. I didn't know who I was. The simple things like where do I shop, all those kind of things, down to what is my position in my family? What role do I play with my friends? How am I supposed to show up at work? What types of guys like me? How do I show up? All these things were so tied to my weight that I didn't know how to move and how to behave or operate when the physical identity changed. There was no grounding in my internal identity. And so how I transformed out of that is, one, I had a failure, if you will, with after weight loss success. So although the external was successful in losing 144 pounds, which was amazing, the internal failure was I didn't have any grounding in my true identity. I wasn't clear on what that was. And so over the course of many years, I gained all the weight back plus 58 pounds, right? So you do the math of what that is, nearly 200 pounds after publicly losing all this weight, right? And so that process of gaining the weight, which I don't talk about a whole lot, really helped me to identify what I needed. I didn't know exactly what the root cause was, what the issue was. I had an inclination that it was something deeper than just I need to eat better. I knew that there was something deeper. I didn't know what that was. And so I think that for me was the initial trigger to transformation, identifying that there's a problem, identifying that I don't have the answer, and knowing that I needed to face it and do something about it. I didn't do anything about it at first, but I knew there was a problem.
But here's the thing, Leanne, you did do something about it. You had the conversation. You owned it, right? Because we often think that, okay, I'm not doing anything if I'm not physically moving, but going back to the mindset, the moment that you have a thought, you have moved.
Yeah. Amen.
And as
That's
a
so good.
result of you having that thought, then things begin to work with you to unearth what it is that you needed. And so if people will begin to at least have the conversation with themselves, they'll begin to find the hidden things, the things that
Mm.
seem hidden, or as Trishelle said, the gaps, by having those conversations. And I did not go into details about Leanne's comeback because it's so much more than the physical aspect. And
Yes.
oftentimes people get lost in the physical part. And so I wanted to talk through a bit about her personal development before diving directly into the physical. And so I have coined Leanne the comeback queen because she lost 145 pounds naturally years ago, way before she met me. Gained it all back, as she just shared, plus some. And one of the things in the conversation that I had with Leanne was, what was a nemesis, or what was an area that was of shame to her, losing, gaining it back, plus some. And she said that it was so public, that she was in all these magazines, that people saw her transformation. And so now to come back again, it had some shame attached to it. And you guys know that Matters of the Heart podcast, although we're discussing weight, it is not limited to weight. What is some of the things that you are ashamed of because you once had a public praise about,
That's
that
so
you
good.
kind of shrunk back on? I want you to identify that, not even share it in the comments, but identify it within yourself so that the answer can begin to find you. And so in that public praise that Leanne had, it also came with some shame. And here's the biggest thing: shame from herself. Shame from herself. We can shame ourselves in a place where we believe that everybody else is shaming us, and that may not be the case. But what's more important is, are you shaming yourself? Are you blaming yourself? Are you having self-sabotaging conversations about yourself? I want to hang out for a minute, because the moment you begin to redirect those self-sabotaging conversations, you will begin to win. Literally. You see, you are exactly what you think. And I know you guys have heard that many times, but I don't want you to be familiar with that today. I want you to identify in yourself what you think truly about yourself. What you think when you look yourself eyeball to eyeball in the mirror. Are you even doing that? Or are you looking at your exterior and making a decision? But what do you really think about yourself when you look at yourself eyeball to eyeball? What conversations is your immediate response work? What you need to do? Oh, I need to fix this. Oh, look at your nose, or look at your lip, or look at your shoulder. Or is it, you look amazing? Or is it, you are amazing? Take an introspect of your self-sabotage, your self-conversation when you look at yourself in the mirror. And so one of the things that I always do in all of my programs is mindset. Like, it is the core foundation of everything. Anybody can teach you how to lose weight and get in shape. But if your mind isn't in alignment with the destination, you'll regain it all over again. And so one of the things that Leanne and I worked on was the personal self, how she saw herself, not just physically, but overall, how she saw herself. And as she began to really see herself like she is, life changed tremendously. You see, she already told you that she's joy. When she enters the building, the joy meter increases. It increases. And so, what do you bring when you enter the building? Are people elevated or are they deflated when you enter the building?
That's so good, Tasha. And I want to interject there.
Yep.
We talked about shame. And one of the things we worked on a lot in the beginning was this shooting all over yourself, right?
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
I should have done this, or I should do this, or I should be that, or I should be here or there. And that can draw so much of the self-sabotage, so much of the shame, especially for people who are overachievers, who are typically achieve good things, or positive people or whatever, like I am or was or am. And so it was a lot of that judgment, that judging myself. I should be here. I should be there. I did this before. Why can't I do this again? I should feel like this. Why don't I? And trying to almost fix myself through the criticism. And that only drew like a deeper hole. And so in the beginning, one of the things that I struggled with was, I'm a woman of faith. I'm a woman of God. I've loved Jesus, loved the Lord all my life. You know what I mean? Like, I remember it's as early as 6 years old, accepted, doing the prayer of salvation, all those things. And so that was a very prevalent part of my upbringing. And so I had that positivity. I knew what God said about me. Thankfully, I had a lot of positive people around me who said positive things about me, but I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
I fully embrace it. And one of the things, especially when we met in 2017, that I desired, and that was a part of my silent prayers to God, was I want to be in congruency. Like, I want what people see and how they perceive me to actually be the truth, to be reality.
Say that again, Leanne.
Yes. I want to be in congruency with myself, the same way that people perceive me and say that I am. I wanted to feel that and know that internally as well, to have that all be one.
Yeah.
There is, because that can drive depression. It can drive anxiety. It can drive the silent suffering, if you will, right? Because you can show up one way, show up happy and all these things, or like you got it all together, but secretly you're crying yourself to sleep at night, right? So what's that Mary song? Like, you don't see me when I'm in the room by myself on my knees crying. And, that time with God is cool, but at some point you need an intervention. Like, you need to feel like you are one all together. And that was the biggest desire. You talked about that fire burning inside of me, and I describe I'm a very visual person. So I literally felt like and could see a fireball kind of turning on the inside of my belly for years. And I called it potential. That's what people would say. Oh, you're amazing. You're this, you're that. You have so much potential. And while you would think that would encourage me, it was frustrating as all get out, because I'm like, that's cool, but Joker, how do I get this out? You know what I mean? Like, I know it's there. I get that. I do believe what you see, and I see like inklings of it come out here and there, but I don't know how to get it out. And so a lot of that came through the personal development, until one day, literally, it seemed like one day I was like, I don't feel that anymore. Like, I feel whole, I feel one. And like you, especially for Christians, we believe that we are whole, because that's the state that God said that we're in. When Jesus died on the cross, he said, sozo fully, you're whole, complete. But there is sometimes a process to get to that wholeness, right? And so you talk about a lot, Tasha. Are you whole, or you got a whole bunch of holes in you? And so there was a lot of holes that needed to be shored up. And then, throw the whole piece of paper away, get another piece of paper that don't have no holes in it altogether. And so that's where the transformation kind of fully came. But I wanted to mention that shooting, that criticism, that judgment, we worked a lot on that. You worked a lot on that with me, especially early on, and still today we address it from time to time.
Yeah. I love how you said that it literally one day you said, oh, I don't feel that way anymore, right? And so that is a direct result of you working in the weight. One of the things that I love about you, and I share this with you often, and even publicly, is that you are going to participate in your own rescue. You are going to reach out. You're going to ask questions. You are going to access the help that you've invested in. And so in that accessing the help that you've invested in, that's your working in the weight. So that when things arise as such that would one time get you completely off, they roll off your back as if it's nothing, because it is. And so as you work and develop your personal self, it begins to flourish in other areas of your life, professionally, socially, emotionally, every single where. It begins to flow in your life. And so when you say that, I literally woke up and said, oh, that doesn't bother me anymore, that's a disconnect for people because they don't see the work in the process. And so what is it that you can share? Maybe one or two principles that you can share to give them some clarity of exactly what that is, because we don't want to just give them information, but also we want to make sure we give them the how to.
Absolutely. Good point. So I'll tell you what it feels like, and then I'll go to some of the how to. So what it feels like is peace internally in your entire soul, mind, body, that feeling that people say you feel in your gut, that anxious feeling is not there anymore. You just feel at peace. Some of the same things that would bother you before silently that you may not share doesn't bother you anymore. You feel like you're on the right path. Even if things aren't perfect in your life, you feel like you're on the right path, headed to where you need to head to. And so how I got there and still getting there, this journey isn't over, is one principle is stop hiding. So I really had to work on that. So one of the issues that I had, we talked about weight loss and all those things, and the shame piece was had me hiding. So one story that I joke around a lot with my husband about this, because Mike will tell on me in a hot second, right? We have a personal development group that I'm a part of with Tasha, and Mike said, Liam just eating a bowl of meat the other day. I said, why are you talking about? I was like, it was taco meat. He's like, no, you're just sitting there. There's no vegetables, no rice, no nothing. You're just eating a bowl of meat. And I said, well, it was just a little bit. And so we went on and on and on about this. And, Tasha challenged, well, why? What is it? It wasn't so much about the meat. It was why are you eating a bowl of meat? And so went through this whole thing literally to where she's like, go get the bowl out the thing. Let me see how big the bowl was. What does it look like? And that process was not easy, right? Mm-hmm. And so we had worked together for some time, so it was probably easier than it would have been in the beginning. But there was a process of exposing myself, right? Like imagine yourself naked on stage speaking, where everything that you would try to hide on your own is exposed. And so through that process of exposing my lowest moments, that's where some of the transformation started to come through, because I had to confront myself and not give myself those excuses of, oh, it's cool, it's okay, all those things that we do all the time when it's just you and you. Like it's easy to let yourself off the hook when you hide. And so for me, growing up, when it comes to food, I would eat food alone. Like when I would probably not eat a whole lot in front of friends and family, but by myself, I would. So like in the car, I would go to the Popeyes or to the McDonald's, get the super size. I wasn't going to McDonald's, but I wasn't getting a super size fry. You know what I mean? But yeah. I would do those things by myself. So I didn't have to worry about anyone else judging me. I could just be happy by myself, and enjoy it by myself without wondering, is someone judging me? Yeah. I could, eat that extra piece of cake without worrying about someone looking at me. Because I love
that, Leanne. And I want to interject there because it's so loaded, and I don't want people to get lost in the translation of you giving the details.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to expose yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Expose yourself, right? That brings me to a time where my pastor was talking about exposing yourself. And this is, again, in any area of your life. And he said, if you are a liar, if you lie all the time, I need the moment that you are lying to say, that's a lie. That's a lie. And if you expose yourself outwardly enough, you'll stop. I did it. I did it. And here's the thing. Sometimes you may not see it as a lie, or you may not see it as an issue for yourself. And that's why you have to get outside of yourself and expose yourself. Expose yourself. You see, better will not become better if it's isolated. When you find yourself in a place of isolation, there's something wrong with it. Don't you dare allow yourself to think that it's okay. If you are isolating yourself, you are hiding. What is there to hide? These are the questions that you have to ask yourself. Why am I hiding? Why is it that I am not doing this in front of my friends? Why is it that I'm coming up with these stories that makes absolutely no sense? Expose yourself. I say it like this: transparency transforms. Now, if you really want change, you'll be transparent in the areas that bring you shame. I'm going to say that again.
Yeah, I was going to say.
If you really want change, you'll be transparent in the areas that bring you shame. What areas are you shamed about? Because here's the thing, shame is a doggone shame. And so you have to shame by being transparent and saying what the shame is. So what are the areas that you are ashamed about? Let's be transparent so that you can transform. This is matters of the heart. Expose yourself. And here's the thing. It is never, almost never comfortable in the exposure, but it is amazing in expansion. When I look back over my life, it sounds like a song. When I look back over my life, hey, Lynn is a great hype woman too. She jumped right in there with me. But when I look back over my life, guys, like seriously, and I think things over and I see where I've grown, where I've developed, where I've increased, where I've matured, I sing hallelujah. Literally. And those areas are as a result of exposing myself. I tell my kids, I tell my family, I tell my friends, I don't ever want to hear something about you from someone else the first time. I don't care what it is, you tell me first so that I'm not surprised if and or when I hear it. You see, when you expose yourself, you take the power away from shame.
Come on.
Give a care? I told you that myself, or if I didn't, let me tell you the true details about it, because they told you half. Let me tell you the rest. I have a colleague that says, believe everything they say about me. Because when you take shame, strength, it has nothing. It has no power. So expose yourself. I love that. Also, Leanne, I want to talk about the people pleasing. Oftentimes we are who we are not because we want to please people, right? And so one of the things that I saw very prevalent with Leanne was that she had a need to please, not just a desire, but there was a need, there was a connection of her self-value in pleasing people. And so I want you to share that to help other people that has a need to please get on the other side.
Yeah, that's so good. Of all the things that we've worked on, that's probably the biggest one, or at least top two.
I would agree.
Yeah, and so the need to please, there was a lot of my identity was tied to what people thought of me, right? And because of that, I did a lot to make people, as much as I thought I could control it, think well of me, think good of me. Whether it was things as simple as I'm gonna get good grades so you can score me really high, down to whatever it is that you asked me to do within reason. Well, for the most part, I'll do it if it makes you happy, if at the expense of myself. And
Yeah.
so for me, what that started to create was a deprioritization of my needs, of myself. I sacrificed myself a lot to accommodate other people.
Yeah.
And
When you say a deep prioritization, guys, I want
yeah,
to break these principles out. These
okay,
aren't chicken nuggets, right? So
yeah,
we're not sharing nuggets. We're sharing principle. We're sharing short foundational truths that you can take, apply today in real time, and get change. And
yeah.
so when you say a deep priority, break that down.
Yeah. So what that means is the way I looked at my values, you talked about this last week, right? Was, family, friends first, all these other things. And then I don't even know if I was on my list, on my top 5, right? Didn't even
Yeah.
think about me being on the list. And so what that looked like was things as practical as I will go to your baby shower, I will organize this and that for you, but that means I won't have time to exercise, to cook, to even think about what that looks like for me. That's a part of practically what deprioritization looks like. But it also looks like I didn't have the mental capacity to even do any self-evaluation because I was so consumed with other people's challenges, their problems, trying to help other people fix their issues, where my issues were forgotten or it didn't even matter. As long as I could help somebody else, then I was fulfilling what I believe was my purpose, which is to serve and help other people. So it was grounded in something that was positive, but it was very negative for me. And, I thought that it was good. So deprioritization means that if I say yes to someone else, that mean I had to say no to myself, possibly.
Yeah.
Or I wasn't even a consideration in the decision to say yes or no. And again, practically speaking, it's things as where do I put my time? And so if my whole schedule would have been, I'm going to work, early, I'm going to work late, I'm going to on the weekend, I'm going to serve at all the services at church. I'm going to watch my sister's kids. I'm going to, help out, go to my girlfriend's event because that's what a good friend, sister, coworker does. But
Yeah.
was I being a good Leanne to Leanne? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And what that started to create for me, it started to come out physically for me where I was putting on a lot of weight, all these things, even though I was accomplishing a lot of things, multiple degrees and success at work or what looked like success at work, but internally I was losing. And so I was prioritizing all these other things to get accolades, to get recognition, to get pats on the back, to get people to say, oh, Leanne's an excellent friend, all these things. And one of the things, if I go back to when I first lost the weight that tripped me up, was while I thought that I would get all these accolades, I think from other people, it was actually quite the opposite. The people in my close circle, my boyfriend broke up with me, right? And I thought when I lost weight, I would get married, all these other things. Boyfriend broke up with me for various reasons. I have a lot of challenges with a couple of my close friends in my friend group for different reasons. There were a couple other things personally going on. I was like, well, I don't want this because this isn't connected to what I value as important, which is other people are happy with me. So
Yeah.
it wasn't conscious, but subconsciously, like this doesn't give me the success of people being happy with me. So why do I even want it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so when I started to change it to, it's not about other people being happy with me, but it's about me being happy with me and ultimately God being happy with me. That's when my actions started to change. And I said on your podcast the other day, I wish I had it in front of me, but essentially changing like the priority, like putting myself first, meant that it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. I mean, I've
Yeah.
lost some friends. I have had conflict at work, all these different things, but it's all been positive because I'm whole, right? And like I matter. And that breeds a different level of confidence in knowing this is who I am. And y'all gonna have to get with the program, right? It is not like a running over people, creating a bloody trail kind of thing, but getting with the program of I'm establishing my level of expectations personally, and you either meet it or you don't, right?
Amen.
And it sounds easier said than done. We say things like that all the time, but for a people pleaser, that was extremely difficult. And how I worked through it was in the moment, like having those dialogues about what might seem the simplest of things. Tasha, I am like calling Tasha, hey, I'm debating if I'm going to go to XYZ event to support my friend. I feel like I need to say no because I have this going on. I don't know how to say no and still feel like I'm a good friend. And it's like exposing yourself to say this is an issue, and not saying this shouldn't be an issue, should be easy for me, but working through that made it easier to make those decisions the next time and to be really grounded in this is who I am. These are my boundaries and sticking to them. And then everybody else will begin to get in line or exit. And that might be a good thing.
Yeah, I love that. I love that because, and I loved how you said expectations versus boundaries. Oftentimes people say you have to have boundaries, you have to have boundaries, you have to have boundaries. I prefer expectations because where there is no expectations, you give people an opportunity to make a decision versus boundaries is more like a block. But here are the rules of engagements is what I like to call it, right? Rules of engagements, which is expectations. For me, one of my rules of engagements is I go to bed early. So my family and friends know, don't call me after a certain time because she is asleep, right? Those are rules of engagements. Another one of my rules of engagements is tell me how you feel. Mm-hmm. Don't assume or think I'm going to know how you feel. Let's have a conversation. Those are one of my expectations. And so we begin to even develop expectations within ourselves. Oftentimes we look at expectations for others. Expectations are for ourselves first. Mm-hmm. Then they flow over to others. I remember God telling me years ago that you keep your word to everybody else except yourself.
Come on.
How disrespectful is that? And so I began to work through that and making myself a priority, setting that expectation that I don't cancel appointments with me. You mentioned if you did something, then it may create an issue for yourself. Well, I don't do those kind of things now. I did it one time, but now because I've set the expectation for myself first. And so if you guys can begin to set expectations of yourself first, it will be easy to have expectations with others. And here's the thing. Sometimes you won't even have to set them. They'll know. People have said to me, oh, you don't look like you play. I don't. I'm glad you see it. That's not even a conversation that I have to have because I set the expectation with myself. I don't play games with myself, right? Mm-hmm. Just this morning before getting on the broadcast, I remembered that I'll be in Cabo the first week of January. I am detoxing the first week of January. I just realized that. Guess what I said? So your expectation is that you detox from the 2nd to the 31st. Finish it. Make the adjustments. Call ahead. Let them know the rules of engagement. I'm discipling my discipline. You think I'm going to let a trip deter my discipline for the next 5, 6, 7, 10 years? Oh, you have got to be kidding. I'll go again. But for now, this is what we doing. So set your own expectations for yourself, and then everyone else around you will align.
Yeah.
That takes me into the next thing, Leanne, is that when you heal a woman, you heal an entire nation. What does that mean, Tasha? When you begin to work on yourself, when you have the willingness and the want to, when you break the knob off on go, everybody around you will align.
Come on.
And so in Leanne's case, Leanne lost 145 pounds, gained it back plus some, but then she came back. Here's where the comeback queen came from. She came back and has lost 180 plus pounds. Now, you see that as physical weight is so much more than just the physical. It's mental first. It's refining, reorganizing the mind as it relates to the weight. You see, not what you eat, but what's eating you to drive what you're eating. Mm-hmm. And not what you are physically eating in your mouth, but what it is that you're eating through your eye gate, what it is that you're eating through your ear gate, what it is that you're eating through your heart gate. And what's eating you, those things show up physically. And so she's lost 180 pounds physically, but she's lost millions of pounds mentally, spiritually, emotionally, socially. It's been 3+ years. And she hasn't seen that weight again.
Come on.
What weight? What weight am I talking about? The weight of depression, the weight of self-sabotaging, the weight of people-pleasing, the weight of I'm not enough. Like, we're talking real stuff here, guys. You see, when you develop yourself personally, the scales will begin to fall off. Whether your scales is weight loss, whether your scales is offense loss, whether your scales are betrayal loss, whatever your scales are, when you begin to heal from the root, the scales will fall off.
Come on.
You see, I'm talking about sustainable transformation. See, you see it as a number on a scale. I see it as generations no longer derailed. You see, we don't see different. We're not the same. And so when you enter my space, you enter to a new dimension of life that you never imagined.
Yes.
Literally.
And that's if you surrender to it, to
Yes.
the work, to the transformation. And that's something that I realized recently, where it is, you can think that you want that, but it goes back to that willingness and want. You got to have both of them. And for me, I didn't know the how. And I don't think I know you don't need to know the how, which is why you connect with someone who has your answer.
Yes.
Because in the beginning, I talk a lot about how I didn't believe that I could do it.
Yes.
I didn't even know what was really going on with me. I thought something was broken. Why isn't this working anymore? You're saying dig deep. I don't know where we digging. Haven't we gone deep enough? You ain't got the root yet. I'm tired of crying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's like the more I went, the more confident I became, the stronger I felt, the more that muscle, if you will.
The more you went, the stronger you became. Let's hang out there for a second, because people don't want to go. But they don't want to stay. They don't want to till the soil. They don't want to do the work. They don't want to go back and water the seed. I call it the microwave mafia. They want to here and now. But you got to go, right? When I think about travel, right? I am a one and done chick. Get me there and back. I don't like layovers. Again, it's a rule of engagement of mine. My friends know that when I travel, my best friend, she wants me to go somewhere with her. She called and said, you have to have a layover. Because she know, take me up. I don't care how much it costs. One and done. Take me up one time, get me there, bring me back one time. But God gave me a revelation in this with coaching. And Leanne mentioning the going triggered it. You see, you have some coaches that get you from one destination to another. Then you have some coaches that require a layover. And then a change in planes. Then you have other coaches that are multi-dimensional that can get you there one way. Then as you continue to go and grow and develop, it may be a layover, but it's on the same plane. Have you ever been on a layover where you didn't have to change planes? Which one do you prefer? Do you prefer a layover if you don't have a choice? Because I prefer no layovers. But if you just have to have a layover, do you prefer a layover that doesn't require you to change planes, or a layover that requires you to change planes? You got to get your luggage, go to another terminal, get on another plane, reset your luggage to go on. Which one would you prefer? And so in that, Leanne mentioned that she didn't know how, but she had the willingness and the want to. She thought that she was broken, but she got with a coach that was able to help her in her how. But here's the thing, she had to help me help her.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by that, Tasha? It's not magic. You got to open your mouth. You got to participate in your own rescue. I'm Holy Spirit Junior when Holy Spirit tells me, but there's some things that you have to do to strengthen the trust muscle. And so as a result of Leanne participating in her own rescue, we've gone to destinations direct. We've gone to destinations with layovers, but without having to change planes over and over and over again. T.D. Jakes says it like this: you start at level 1 and then get to level 10. You're a master at 10. But then you got to move on to 11. You are now the rookie in the room again, because you're at 11 where people are 20. And so life is always evolving. It's evolution. You don't ever get to the place where you know everything, where you got it all together. If you do, you might as well go ahead and check out.
Yeah. Hello.
Because there's nothing else to learn. No champion stops at 1.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
Serena has 23 Grand Slams. Why? Because better is always available.
Come on.
Kobe Bryant has how many championships? More than 5. Michael Jackson. He got some championships too. Here's a different though.
Right.
Michael Jordan has more than 5 championships. LeBron, greater is always available. And guess what? They all have somebody getting them to their next dimension. And here's the thing. They typically stick with the same person that got them from one level of glory to the next, to the next, to the next. I believe that it was Michael Jordan said that he wouldn't go with a certain team because they didn't have Phil.
It was. Mm-hmm.
You see, you have to get out of your own way and get the help you need to get you to your next destination, to your next level, to your next dimension. You see, when Leanne came into the program, my programs, she was going from level to level to level. Now she's leaping. That's the will of God. And guess what? It wasn't even about the weight loss. The weight loss was simply the catalyst to get her to where she is and where she's growing.
Yeah. And that's just the area that I talk about a lot, because you see it physically, but not to mention the personal development in my marriage, how much stronger it is because of my personal development. my workplace, a number of promotions and new jobs I've gotten because of that strengthening. The family and friendship dynamics, I can fully be present in those relationships because I'm not bringing some of those same issues, to the plate. So my relationship with God, you know what I mean? It just continues to transcend across all things. And my family for generations is blessed because of it. People are jumping on, whether it be, aunties,
they are jumping
uncles,
on
siblings.
without full understanding.
That part.
Why? Because through you've exposed them to something different.
Yeah.
You see, it's not just about you guys. I remember God telling me that in 2009. He said, it is not just about you. That's the work in the wait. And so in 2009, I continued in my journey of transforming, of healing, of exposing myself for all of you guys. And I had no clue. I continue to develop my listening muscle. How's your listening? How strong is your listening? Do you obey on demand, or do you have to be slapped in the face to say, oh yeah, that was God? You think? But here's the thing, it's okay. I just don't want you to stay there. We all have a place that needs to be developed and strengthened. And the way you do it is that you work in the wait. Leanne's life looks completely different from 2017 to 2021 and now 22. I love that she brought up her marriage. I love that she brought up her job. I love that she brought up her family. I love that she brought up her relationship with God. That's multi-dimensional coaching and participation. You see, she didn't have to go get a marriage counselor. And I'm not a marriage counselor. I'll make that clear. But I listen to the voice of God, and what he say is what I say. But she didn't have to go get a marriage counselor. She didn't have to go get a professional development. Yeah. Now help me out. Yeah. Share. Yeah,
career coach.
Look, you take it. I take it. Yeah.
Double Dutch. Yeah, all of those things, because you're multidimensional and because I surrender to the process of transformation to the point where whatever comes up, let's just deal with it, trusting that if you didn't have the answer, you would direct me to it. You so happen to listen to Holy Spirit, so you had many of the answers.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's so good. And I love how you say surrender to it, because while I am multidimensional, you have to surrender to the process. Oftentimes people resist it, and a closed fist will never obtain freedom, ever.
Yeah, say that again.
A closed fist will never obtain freedom. And so I love how you pointed out that you surrender. That's what that willingness and the want to comes in play. But she didn't have to make all these different investments, because I operate in a multi-dimensional assignment. God gives me what each and every client need, and they're all different.
Yeah.
They're all different. They are all completely different. And so you have to find the one that has your rhythm. I used to say, I'm not for everyone. That is a self-sabotaging affirmation, because I'm for everyone that God has called me to. You see how I expose myself? I had to listen to myself. I said that for years. Oh, I'm not for everyone. I am. I'm for everyone that God has called me to. The rest of them is none of my business.
That's so good. That's so good. It makes me think about when we first met in 2017, and you said that my face in the audience when you were talking was like, the disruption that you have. I was like, okay, she's a lot, or just different than what
Yes.
I'm used to, right?
Yeah.
And when you talk about the rhythm, your rhythm was different than my rhythm.
Yeah.
But that's what was needed to disrupt. It's like a not an EKG. What are things that start somebody's heart, right? You have
Yeah. I know what
a
you're talking about.
defibrillator. You know, it
Yeah.
gets you to a different rhythm to pick up the pace in a different way. And to the point where now that's my rhythm. You know what I mean? People
Yeah.
will say, "Oh, okay, baby Tasha," you know, jokingly, but
Yeah.
it's a different rhythm, but it's
Yeah.
still me. I'm not
It's still you.
copying anyone, but I
Absolutely.
hear different, you know what I mean? Because of that exposure. And I'm able to it disrupted enough to wake me up, to restart the heart, if you will, to get onto the path that I need to get into the beat that God needed me to get into. And like
Absolutely.
those continual, you know, dying to self, wake up, get in the rhythm, dying to self. Like it's a consistent dying to self, exposing of your heart and making those committed decisions to stick with that, being integral to yourself. You know what I mean? Those
Yes.
commitments that you made, like sticking with it.
Yeah.
And leaning on. I always joke around and say, you threw me on your back and dragged me across until I could walk myself. But that's literally what it was, because I didn't know how. I didn't know what to do, what
Yeah.
the path was. And so being vulnerable enough with someone that you can trust, ultimately because you trust God, and then he'll say you can trust this person with this part
That
of your
part.
of you to get you across to where now you can move by yourself. Now you're keeping pace, and they should always be drawing you more to be faster, stronger, what have you. You should never be with someone who's just going to let you coast, because when you
Amen.
coast, you start going backwards. So this is a continual process, and it should feel uncomfortable. That's how you know it's working. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be hard or resistance, but it shouldn't be comfortable, you know, if you will. That's how you know you connected with the right one.
Yeah. I love that. And you always say this saying, and I love to, not necessarily a need, but I love to memorize it. But you talk about um holding on to my faith until you got
Yeah,
drowned or something like that.
trusting and believing in the person who believed in me until I believed in myself.
I
Because I
love
didn't
that.
believe in myself at first, but I believed enough in your belief in me. I knew you saw something in me that was like, well, if you believe I can do it, then maybe I can. Surely I can. Let me at least take this first step, this second step. And the more I went, again, as I went, that trust
Yeah.
muscle, that belief in myself began to, you know, be refined and be strengthened. And that's really like indicative of how the journey started. Because truly 2017, I was probably at what I would consider my rock bottom, right? I
Hmm.
gained all that weight and I really wanted to do something. I really wanted to get better, and I wanted to help other people because I knew there were other people like me. And I started searching for different coaches. I worked with a couple people. I was like, this isn't working. Maybe it's me, maybe it's them. And then when we met, it wasn't the type of person that I would have gone to sought out. So God had to
Yeah.
send you to me.
Yeah.
And I just went. And then it was like, okay, there's something here. Let's just keep going. I started just asking you random questions about things, and we would talk. And then it was like, okay, I got to pay you now. Like I need to make an investment because you were
Yeah.
so generous with it.
Yeah.
But I knew that for me to really get the transformation I needed, there had to be an investment, you know, attached to it. And that's a part of also going back to the deprioritizing myself. I wasn't willing to invest in myself, whether it be
Yeah.
time or money, right? Like there's an exchange that happens with your growth and development. And so I believed finally, like I am worth this investment. Like I'm worthy of putting this into myself. I pour this stuff into other people, my money, my time. I can do that into myself. I'm worth at least that. And
Yes.
then that was an act of me developing my trust and my faith and my confidence that okay, I can do this. I know who I am. I'm getting stronger. So it's all really connected.
Yeah. I love, 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 love that. And that's what you have to do, because sometimes you won't have it for yourself initially, and it has to be drawn out of you. And
Mhm.
as you continue to connect with the person that has your rhythm, you'll begin to stand up taller, taller,
Mhm.
taller, and taller, because you get stronger, stronger, and stronger. Like Leanne said at the top of the broadcast, it literally seemed like one day she looked up and said, oh, that's not a problem for me
Yeah.
anymore, because of the work and the weight. because of doing the work outside of the work, right? The homework that she's given, not just physical homework, but spiritual homework that she doesn't always like to do. I tell her, you follow
80%.
98% of the time. Well, I love it because there's only 2% that you don't. But she does the work in session and out. That's developing the muscle. You see, I can do your push-ups, but you can't get strong from them. And so if I say, hey, you got to do push-ups, you got to do the push-ups. If I say, hey, we got to rightly divide the word of truth, we got to rightly divide the word of truth. I can't divide your word of truth because the revelation you need and the revelation that I have regarding what you need may be completely different.
Yeah. And you don't know what you need. So you need to listen to somebody who does.
Yes.
Like so many times we say, I don't need to do all that. What's that? It don't take all that.
Yes.
But how do you know? Like what you thought it took got you to where you are, which is nowhere. So
right.
as well.
Or it got you, I love that, which is nowhere, or it got you somewhere, but somewhere is no longer nowhere. Right? Like where you are right now, guys, is for now. But if you don't do anything different now, you won't have anything for next. And so you have to constantly evolve, refine, renew, right?
Yeah.
When God tells us to renew your mind, there's a reason that he says renew your mind, because things change, life change. And if you're hanging out with yesterday, you'll be looking like a payphone in the 21st century.
That's so good. And people will think you're crazy. And that's okay. Yeah. And that's okay.
Yeah. And when you get to the point where you're okay with being looked at as weird or different, then you're in divine alignment, because he calls us peculiar.
Yeah.
People should look at you different. People should say, You see, when I enter the building, I'm expecting people to be disrupted. That's who he's called me to be. When I was on stage and I could see Leanne's face look like deer in the headlight, I said, I'm in there. I'm in there. That's what he's called me to do, is to disrupt, to snatch, to give you a gut punch, literally, to wake up. Literally, to wake up, to change the destination of your brain, because you're still hanging out and sane. And here's the thing, sane was great at one time. It worked for you back there, but this time it's lame. It will not sustain you.
It will not sustain you.
But yeah, and I remember when we were preparing, and I say we, because I am in the trenches with you. Leanne came and shared some concerns, some fears that she had around, one, even deciding to look outside when she wasn't being valued at a job that she gave all of her value to. Go somewhere else. Look somewhere else. You're worthy. What do you want?
Yeah.
You remember that conversation?
I do, very much so. We had several of them.
What do you want? I'm talking about your salary. I'm talking vacation. I'm talking about stocks. What do you want? And she began to unveil what she wanted. You see, if you guys would just take a moment and unveil what you want, not what's safe, but what do you want? Your best wants. If you begin to unveil, you'll receive it.
Yeah. And throw the fear aside with the what ifs. The what if I don't? It's like, what if you do?
Correct.
And why not?
So after, Leanne unveiling what she wanted, she had offers in alignment, and I believe one of them exceeded
yeah,
what she wanted. So you can get so comfortable with where you are because it's giving you a good life based on what? You see, we look at our family, we look at our lineage, and they did amazing. I'm so grateful for those that have come before me, but that was their life.
Yeah.
Each generation should exceed the next. And so you look at your life and you say, oh, I own a home, I own cars, I'm at this level, I'm president, I'm vice president. Better is
correct.
available.
And that's why I was so
critical. Consider it.
I was going to say, that's why I was so critical for me to break with God's help, with your help, to break that people pleasing, because if I continued down that path of doing what I thought other people liked and thought was good enough, I would have stayed in just enough. Yeah. And so I had to break that to excel their expectations, my own expectations, getting to where God wanted me to be.
Absolutely. Because it's all God, right? I am God's partner. God uses man in the earth to show himself. And so I'm in partnership with God. I am a resource of God. I'm not God. I make that very clear. My first response to my clients is, what did God say? Did you invite him into the equation? Right? And even if you haven't, let's do it now. Let me show you how, because there's a process even in that. Oftentimes, you may get in a place where, oh, God knows that, or I don't have to. No, there are laws that you have to operate in when it comes to God. Yeah. He gave us dominion over the earth. And so even with God being all of whom he is, you must, all caps, invite him in. Yeah. If not, he has to hang out until he receives an invitation. So there is levels to this. There is laws to this. There are processes to this.
Yeah.
And that's where the work in the wait comes from. That's where the development of your trust muscle. Because when you look at yourself and you say, oh, I'm not worthy, or I don't have value, or whatever your thing is, you're literally saying, God, what you did is not enough. What you gave me is not enough. And so oftentimes you don't even see it as a God thing or a lack in trust in God, because you just see yourself, because it's surface.
Yeah.
So it's deeper, going back to the digging deep, getting to the root of the matter.
Yeah.
When you know who you are and not cliche about whose you are, right? Oftentimes people say that, but they don't have a clue of whose they are. But God called me royalty, and I believe him.
Hello, that part.
I believe him. I get what I want because he said so. And I'm not just naming it and claiming it. I am backing it up with my anchors. I'm backing it up with my relationships. I am backing it up with my revelations and conversations. You see, I don't wait until I need something to encounter God. I'm encountering him on a consistent basis, not just daily, but consistently. I'm hanging out with God. I'm talking to God. I am developing my listening.
Yeah.
Daily. I am developing my patience daily. The work in the wait. You see, when you get anxious in a place where you can't wait, then you don't trust. Because you're saying, I got to do this now. When God is like,
chill.
Chill. It's in your going that you grow. If God tells you to go to the stop sign, turn left, and at the light, stay right there, then you stay right there because that's where breakthrough is. But if you get to the stop sign and then you get anxious, I got to get it, I got to get it, I got to get it, then you'll miss all of what God predestined for you to have. Work in the way, keep working, keep developing that trust muscle, keep having the conversations, be real, be raw, be true. I have fear in this area. I am scared. There's some anxiety here. Whatever your truth is, be transparent. It transforms.
Yeah, that's so good. And it's okay. You know, like that was one of the biggest, that was another big thing I had to work on. It's okay. Like you might feel that, but it doesn't mean that you're not a quote unquote good Christian, or you're not a quote unquote strong person or confident, what have you. There are some holes that need to be adjusted and corrected. You don't throw the whole thing out. Let's work on this, right? But sometimes you hide, acting like if I hide, then I can just pretend that everything's good, even to yourself. But you can't lie to yourself but for so long. And then you can't lie to other people either, because what's going on internally is bound to show up externally in more ways than one. So just address it, and keep addressing it.
Absolutely. And so, Leanne, what are you waiting for now?
Oh my gosh. I'm waiting for, there's some promises that I'm waiting to see manifested in my life that I'm not letting go of, you know, and it is tempting to let go, because it's easier in some respects to stop building, because there is the continual development of strengthening in that particular area. But the hope is what continues to strengthen me, you know, like let's continue to hold on. You've seen God in these other areas continue to build and work in the weight. Like when we started this thing working together, I thought I was doing it for one thing. But I've seen, and that one thing I'm still waiting to see manifested, but all of these other things have been
unfolded. Like Pandora's box.
Yeah. And it's such a beautiful thing. So it's like, well, God, if you can do that, surely this, like, if this is along the journey, you ever play those video games, you pick up little food and stuff along the journey, little coins and stuff. You're trying to get to the end of the level, but along the level, you're going to pick up these coins, these treasures, these food, all that. That's kind of what this process has been like. It's like, girl, I got you, and I'm going to strengthen you and equip you along the way. So that's what I'm continuing to work on in the weight. And I'm open to what God has. So if I had stopped, you know, at last year when I lost 100 pounds, and that was a big thing. People said, oh, that's good. You're great. I even thought it was great, and maybe I could be cool. I wouldn't have seen another 80, and God knows what else is coming, you know, next. So I'm open and expecting the unexpected, you know, from God. I'm no longer afraid of the unexpected like I used to be. And that feels amazing to me. And so right now I'm working on my surrender, continuing to surrender to God in the weight, and strengthening in that.
I love that. Love that. Love that. Love that. And so, guys, I asked you that question too. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Because there is development in the weight. Strengthening that trust muscle has levels to it. And so what are you waiting on? I want to hear from you. We've come to the end of the broadcast, but you guys know I always want to hear from you. Let us know what it is that you're waiting for. Let us know if you have any questions for Leanne or for myself, any comments. You guys have been doing an amazing job as always, sharing your ahas with us. Let us know. We want to hear from you. What are you waiting on? How is it? What areas do you feel like you need to develop your trust, your trust muscle, right? And Trishelle says, amen. I'm very afraid of the unknown, even in what I'm waiting and praying for. Listen, Trishelle, that's a real thing. And your honesty and your transparency will indeed bring transformation, because what you don't face, you can't confront and ultimately derail. So now that you've put it in the atmosphere that you are afraid of the unknown, your pillars of truth will begin to show up to shore you up. Now, one thing I want you to do is to ask yourself, what in the unknown are you afraid of? You see, questions requires an answer.
Mm-hmm.
So what in the unknown am I afraid of? I call it confronting Goliath, and then take him out with your slingshot. Here's the thing, Trishelle, be ready for the answer. What do I mean by be ready? Whatever the answer is, be okay with it. I remember some Goliaths showing up, in my life during my initial healing process. And I say initial because I am always healing. I am always in pursuit of greater, right? I am always ready, willing, and able to go to the next dimension in every area of my life. But in the initial time frame, it didn't feel well. It was a little daunting. It was a little unnerving, like to see and hear that those were areas that I needed to grow up and develop in when I thought I had already developed in. It didn't feel good. And so be okay with the answers and then go to work.
Yeah. Yeah. And consider the track record. Consider God's track record in your life as well. That's one thing that's helped me even recently. The things that are unknown that I was so afraid of, when I got on the other side of it, it was always better than I expected. That's my life, my experience. Yeah. And so consider the track record, God's rap sheet, if you will, for getting you through the unknown. One visual that I think about often with this now is with Harriet in the Harriet movie. And there's that scene where she's trying to lead her family through that water and nobody could swim. The woman was barely 5'5". The water had to go at least 5 feet, but she went anyway, and it was unknown. People were afraid to go, but that led to their escape, to their breakthrough, to their freedom of their family. And so when you go, just go knowing that God's got you and listening for his leading, listening and trusting his voice. That's the trust muscle, trusting that when you go, that he will continue to cover you, to keep you through that.
Amen. I love that. Love that. Any other questions, comments, ahas? I'll go back through and read some while you guys are typing it in. Yashika says, I keep my word with everyone else but myself, setting expectations for Sheik first. Amen. Yashika. Amen.
Yeah.
Yes, that's good stuff. I love that. Thanks for sharing that. And so many people have that, and oftentimes they don't realize it until it's in their face. Right? And then also people believe that what they do for one person, they expect that from the other person. And that may not be the person that was designed to yield you your harvest.
Yeah.
So you're out of alignment, even in the expectation from the person. You are diminishing God's power, strength, and ability when you look to see where your reaping comes from. Because God will have you sow over here, but then they don't have the capacity to give you to reap for your reaping. So he'll have you sow over here, but then your reaping is over here.
That's so good.
So you don't ever want to put yourself in God's space. That's where frustration and irritation comes from, because you like, I always show up for you. And you guys have heard that, and I've seen some of y'all comment that. I always show up for people, but when it's my time, no one is there to be found because you're looking in the wrong place. That's why.
Yeah. They may not have the capacity to do that, to take that expectation off.
Exactly. I love it. I love you guys. It doesn't look like there are any more comments right now. Leanne, if you have anything you want to leave with the people?
Yeah, just, one thing I thought about that we didn't share is when it comes to building that trust muscle and working in the weight, don't despise the start.
Yeah.
And that's something that really changed the game for me. My start was so intentional. to where I go back to it often to as my foundation for how I continue. When I started this journey, it was a very strong start to where there was a lot of life be lifing. I joke around and say, but regardless of that, I went anyway and made that really tough decision to start. And so if you can start, then you can finish, but just don't stop. So keep going, make a very intentional start, and trust that the middle piece, God will carry you through that, especially if you're connected to the right person to get you through that.
I love that. I love that, Leanne. It's so important to start. Nobody gets to the finish line without starting. And so I love that you mentioned that, because you do have to start. I also love that you said that you had a strong start. What was that start?
Yeah, so in 2017, I started with we did we signed up, as Tasha mentioned, my husband signed us up for the Detox Jumpstart, which Tasha starting at the beginning of the year. And the first day of the detox just so happened to be the day of my my late grandmother's funeral and repast. And so we didn't know that she was going to pass after we had signed up and made the decision to do it and all those things. And a lot of people would have, let me off the hook, if you will, if we had started even a day late, for that. And who doesn't want to, what do you call it, mourn over fried chicken and comfort, the things that typically would comfort you. But my husband and I had a very intentional conversation with Coach Tasha about what was going on, what we were thinking, and could we just start, a little bit later? What are your thoughts on that? And one thing she said stuck with me throughout my entire journey, which is, you don't work around life, you make life work around you. And so that principle comes to mind almost every day, and many moments when I think about deprioritizing my own commitments or putting something else in front of what I said, like Sheikah said, my word of what I was going to do related to the goals that I have. And so because of that one decision, I said, if I can do that, if I can sip green juice and such, while people are eating comfort food to kind of get through this difficult time, surely I can make this decision or what have you. And that was 4 years ago, and that still kind of continues. So those types of strong decisions, those strong starts will be a foundation for you throughout your journey, whatever your journey might be.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And even in where you are now, 4 years ago, you guys making that intentional decision to move on is one of your pillars and a catalyst to where you are now. And so just imagine if you had not made that decision, what that would have looked like. It's so easy to give ourselves a pass to be last. Don't give yourself a pass to be last. You have to always be in a place where you are discipling your disciplines, where you're checking in, where you're exposing yourself, where you're even looking. I love that Trishelle said at the beginning of the broadcast, is that I'm looking to see if there are any gaps. I'm looking to see if there are any holes, because that's where improvement comes in. That's where opportunity to grow comes in, that when you look for opportunity to elevate. And so give yourself the opportunity to do better in every area of your life. One of my staples is that I do my 30-day detox at least twice a year. Now you may think, because you're the author, you're not challenged with anything. No, ma'am. No, sir. I have challenges too. Mine are typically probably different, but it's still a challenge. I'm at the place now that I am in front. So I know that when God is calling me to a new dimension, that new dimension requires new discipline. And so in the detox, the foundation is all about discipline. It is all about denying your flesh. It is all about exposing yourself to see how you've become relaxed in areas with your eating, with your thinking, right? Because what you eat is a direct result of what you think. And please don't limit it to what you put in your mouth. But television shows, conversation, communication is eating. And so when you step back have an out-of-body experience, if you will, and disciple your discipline through what you eat, you'll begin to see the holes that seemingly were hidden in plain view. And so I intentionally detox mentally. I intentionally detox spiritually. God, have I become comfortable? Have I become familiar? Because you can do things on a consistent basis and think that you're in alignment. But if they're so regimented, then you'll be getting the same thing over and over and over again. No, detox. Detox your mind. Detox your soul. Detox your spirit. That's one of the things that I do to make sure that I am always in divine alignment. And so Trishelle said she had a question earlier. So Trishelle, let me know if this is the question that you were referring to. She says, how do you expose yourself when you're not in front of people? You're in front of God all the time, Trishelle. You're in front of God all the time. And, you know, oftentimes people can get comfortable with God always being present. He said, I'll never leave you nor forsake you, that I'll be with you always, even until the end of the earth. And so expose yourself to God. You may be thinking, well, God knows. Remember, there are laws that God himself has to operate in. And so you don't always have to expose yourself to people. In fact, you should be exposing yourself to God first, and then he'll lead you to the people or the person, or lead them to you. Start with God. Expose yourself to God and ask him to expose you to you.
Yeah.
One of my prayers, Trishelle, is that God protect me from me. You see, because you can think, well, I'll speak for myself. I can think I'm all grand, but God protect me from me and all my grandness. Show me me. Show me me from your vision point. So start with God. Got it? Good stuff. You got anything to add to that, Leanne?
No, I think you covered it all. Only other thing I'll say is, you know, we talk about accountability a lot, especially with coaching, especially with, you know, physical transformations or what have you. And oftentimes people want other people to hold them accountable, but I say make yourself accountable. So with the exposure, and we talked about this with kind of being vulnerable, making yourself accountable means you're reaching out, you're sharing those moments, you're seeking out the help instead of waiting for someone to seek you out and to keep you in check, if you will. So adding that in addition to, you know, how to expose yourself to God, you know, when he shows you that person, make yourself accountable to them.
I love that. That's so good. Make yourself accountable. I love that. Good stuff. All right, guys, it has been a privilege, a pleasure, and an honor to hang out with you on this Monday. I don't take it lightly, nor do I take it for granted that you chose to hang out with us. You could have been anywhere doing anything, but you chose to hang out with us. And so I'm always so grateful for your time, for your attention, and for your being present in the moment. That's why I like the interaction. That's why I like to hear from you, because that lets me know that you are present. And so continue to develop your trust muscle. Continue to work in the wait, no matter how it looks like, no matter how it looks or what it feels like. Continue to work in the wait. Breakthrough must happen. It must. It's a sure thing. In your working, you'll develop.
That's good.
Remember, guys, go be greater. You're already great. Add the ER. Why? Because you can. Because you can. I love you today. Peace.
Peace.